Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's watch.
Comfortable doing that to my kids.
I don't know.
Come here. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here.
Oh, God.
Come here.
All right.
Interesting. I wonder if Mary is detecting the true nature of the depths of Christine's despair and is trying to attune to that, trying to help her out. Because it doesn't seem like anyone else really knows what is, but I don't know. Let's see what happens.
I don't know what just happened. I mean, I'm sitting here going, wait a second. Why didn't you pitch it to him? Well, you were enthusiastic about it. She didn't even, it seems like she didn't even try.
Mary, I can't do marriage with Kody anymore. I don't want to.
Just look at the mountain.
I don't want to do it anymore.
Right. And I don't know if I will include that little snippet there of Kody saying, she didn't try hard enough to pitch it. Well, no one agreed with her, including you. So I think she realized, well, what's the point? And I don't know if I showed this clip, but she said, because I think Kody asked specifically, or one of them, that they asked, Christine, did you think that, maybe it was Robin, that when the law was changed in Utah, that we would all just actually want to move back to Utah and that you wouldn't have to convince us? And Christine was like, yeah. And yeah, I hadn't thought about that she would figure, well, that's the only reason why we're not in Utah is because of the law, right? But then Robin, or one of them, was saying that even though the law has changed, the culture hasn't changed, and the ridicule, we've already been over that. But Christine just said something that is a big deal. She's been, circling around this statement, but as suspected from the way she displayed emotion in that moment, I suspected that but I didn't expect to hear her say it. And we wouldn't have heard her say it if Mary hadn't pulled her aside like this. But let's rewind what Christine just said.
Bye.
Mary, I can't do marriage with Kody anymore. I don't want to.
I can't do marriage with Kody anymore. I don't want, and then hand over mouth. I don't want to be married. I want a divorce. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not, I mean, who knows what'll happen? I mean, maybe they'll turn it around. I can't imagine. But I could also see just, her actually doing what Mary has done, which is, yep, marriage is over, but, we're a family. And so that's just the way it's going to be, and we can't leave because of the religion, and who wants to? So we'll just drift into a different phase of our marriage where we are friendly and we're friends, but we're not actually married. I don't think she can do that.
Just look at the mountain.
I don't want to do it anymore.
Don't talk about that. Just look at the mountain. That's what you saw that day.
I can't go there today.
Don't go there.
Interesting. So Mary's trying to talk her away from the ledge, if you will, and look at the mountain. Okay, yeah, I don't think a mountain is gonna help. Yeah, and maybe this has happened before, or to some extent, of Mary helping Christine to get through a moment. But somehow I doubt that Christine has ever said something like this and felt something like this. Certainty, right?
You know where I am. You know where I have been.
Yeah, but I want it.
Yeah, I think that's what's being communicated. Mary is saying, I know how it feels, and I haven't left. I haven't quit. And Christine's like, yeah, but I don't want that. You've made your own choice, and that's great. It's your prerogative, but I don't want what you have. I don't want that. I want an actual marriage.
Or are you just hurting?
Just hurting.
then you can't say what you want or you don't want at this point.
Yeah, right. Mary's saying, hey, you know, when you're in an emotional space, you're going to have some urges, impulses that you're not going to feel later when you're not hurting as much. Yeah, okay, but it's pretty invalidating. Oh, you're just emotional right now, young lady. You don't really mean this. Christine has been in this space for a long time, I think. A lot of the signs are there, a lot of the indications. So I don't think Mary saying, you'll get over it. I don't think it'll work in this moment to soothe Christine, because I don't think Christine feels that way. Plus, it's pretty invalidating. Also, I don't think Christine will change her mind when she calms down.
Okay? You don't get to say that.
I don't feel like this anymore. I don't feel like
Because
it
you're
anymore.
hurting. And when you're hurting, you can't be real with your feelings.
That's quite a sentence there. When you're hurting, you can't be real with your feelings. Oh, I think what she means, not feelings in terms of emotions. I think what Mary is saying is when you're hurting, you can't be real with your plans or, you know, your thoughts. I think that's what she's saying. But still, if you really think about that sentence, it says a lot about Mary's approach to life, which is probably not, well, I don't know. She can have her own life, but it's depending. I would say 9 times out of 10, that kind of thinking overall, especially the way Mary exhibits it, especially in the situation, is not healthy. But I could see it being healthy in certain circumstances.
I promise.
Or it's just changed.
Are you hurting right now?
Yes.
Then you're hurting. It's not changed.
So what does
you're
that
just
mean?
hurting.
I don't want to hurt
It means
anymore.
you need.
Yeah. Christine is saying, I think what I would say, I'm just like, so yeah, I'm hurting. I don't want to hurt anymore. And I should listen to my feelings. I should listen to how I'm hurting. And I'm not just hurting right now, but Mary might not know that. There's a pretty good possibility that we know how Christine feels. You know, there's a possibility that Christine didn't even really register to herself how she felt until this moment. And then all those interviews and the one-on-one stuff where we see and hear Christine saying her attitude, she might have already divorced when they actually are interviewing her. I don't know. We actually saw that with Mary a number of seasons ago when she sat everyone down at that snowy lodge restaurant. And in the edit, what we saw was Mary telling the sister wives and Kody that, hey, you know, don't be surprised if one day you wake up and I'm just gone. And she said that after hemming and hawing about like, oh, things are different now and I don't know what to say. And then finally, that's what she said. Interspersed in the edit on the show, we are getting this one-on-one interview with Mary as she's talking about being catfished and how scared she is. So if you don't watch it carefully, it's manipulated, at least the way it looked to me, to make it look like what she was saying to the sister wives and to Kody was, I'm being catfished right now, and I might leave as a way of protecting you from the catfisher because the catfisher has been threatening me. And it might have been that. But the way it looked to me after getting all the data later on, particularly from Mariah, Mary's kid, I think what was going on in that moment when she was talking to the family was she was in love with another man. She was going to leave. She was going to leave the family, and she didn't have the guts to say anything, or she didn't feel safe to say anything. She was just going to literally, she was contemplating, maybe the catfisher was even saying to do this, to just pack your stuff up and just go. You know, when Kody's not staying with you, you have a lot of space and time to just pack all your stuff up and just, you know, put it in the car quietly in the garage and drive away, and you'll never have to look back. I think that's where she was. And then months later, when they do the one-on-one interview, it's changed for her because she is no longer in a relationship with a catfisher. And either the show was confused, or I don't know, or they were trying to salvage her a little bit, and they interspersed. So there's a possibility that with Christine, we know as an audience that Christine has been in a divorce mindset for a long time. But that might not actually be what's happening on the show consciously for her, that this is the moment. Because I'm trying to remember the things that she has said while being filmed during the season. You know, we can't really trust the one-on-one interview statements. That could be said a long time later. They can also be coached to say things or to frame it in a present tense instead of a past. You know, like Christine in reality in the one-on-one interviews might be saying things like, yeah, you know, in that moment, I didn't really know what was going on with me, but looking back, I think I was done. Instead, they want her to talk as if it's right in the moment from her mind. You know what I mean? Anyway, so there's a possibility that that's what's happening, right? As Christine is just like, oh my God, for the very first time, I'm thinking about leaving this family. I'm thinking about leaving Kody. I don't want to do this anymore. Anyway, so she's talking to Mary. He's like, yeah, I'm hurt. What's your point? Shouldn't I use my feelings as a way of guiding my behavior? Emotions aren't useless, but interestingly, my hypothesis about Mary is that she is not in contact with her feelings, doesn't allow herself, has never been allowed, probably since the day she was born, because people don't act like the way Mary does, at least in the edit, without having that neurologically not being allowed to develop at a young age. That for Mary, emotions are very much pesky things that should not be listened to. And maybe even was given that message growing up, whereas I don't think Christine had been given that message clearly.
You need to feel whole. Then you're giving up if you're just hurting.
Maybe it's not giving up.
It is.
Maybe it's
This could also be a protocol, some sort of unspoken protocol rule in their religion. You could imagine, right? There probably would have to be a lot of protocols and systems and routines, habits in the church system that would talk sister wives off the ledge, or even the husbands, to pull them back in, you know, not only to polygamy, but to the religion in general, right? Because there are probably a lot of moments like this. So I don't know if we're witnessing something like that. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Regarding access to therapy, one of the barriers is that insurance companies can be difficult to work with. And this can make it difficult for clients, but it also means that for therapists to be able to pay off their student loans and pay their bills, they often have to charge fees that many clients cannot afford. There are various proposed solutions, but until those measures are established, we have to figure out other ways to help people to get the help that they need. Well, one of those solutions that we have available today is BetterHelp. In my neck of the woods, therapy can cost as much as $300 per session or more. But with BetterHelp, clients can save, on average, up to 50%. Also, I often talk about the need to shop around because it's critical that you and your therapist have a strong relationship. BetterHelp makes it a lot easier to shop around because you can easily switch therapists if you need to. So, your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
maybe it just looks different. And it's finally looking different.
I don't believe that look different crap. I do not believe that. People say it, but I do not believe it.
I just don't. I don't want to look at the mountains and remember the angels, how they were singing, and I felt this pull. I agreed to move to flat.
Angels? So is that something in the religion, or did I forget some scene earlier in the season when they're talking? I don't know, but it doesn't really matter.
Flagstaff, and I followed Kody here. But it's been a struggle the whole time. I'm tired of feeling like I don't matter. I'm tired of not having his support when I really need it. I'm just tired. I need a partnership. I need something different than this.
Yeah. Well said. I think that's really level-headed of her. And you could say that Kody's a jerkface for not providing that support, not being connected to her, and maybe, but this happens all the time in breakups and divorce, that people just drift apart, and both people might say something like this legitimately and she's not blaming Kody directly anyway, and even if she did, I would still wonder about this based on what we've seen in the edit. I mean, earlier in the scene, it looked like he threw her under the bus about moving to Utah, but I think the distance had already been established a long time ago. Arguably, if you think about it, the distance and the disdain and the conflict has been going on since the very first season. Christine, I'm trying to remember the season in which Christine and Kody were fighting. Christine was saying, I want to be closer. I want to be needed. I want to feel special. From my mind, it was the very first season. And so you could argue that this has been building up for 10, 12 years or something, So that's the way that I would look at it anyway, without knowing more information. Maybe we'll get more information. I would see it as two people that drifted apart. And at a certain point, and each person, made moves towards each other, but enough were away from each other, particularly in the last few years, that it just, it requires couples will come into my office, and in their mind, they're like, well, we're just about to divorce. We're already talking about it. How about we try couple therapy? And then they come into my office, and I will learn that from them essentially. And I'll think, well, I don't have a magic wand. I can't make you want to be in a marriage together. I can't engineer that. You have to want to want. You have, I ask these kinds of questions of just like, how much do you want to be in this marriage? And say both of them are saying, 5%. And then I ask another question of, do you want to increase that percentage? Would you like to try to increase the percentage? And I try to be very clear about what I'm asking, right? I'm not just asking for an intellectual, do you want to increase? I'm asking, are you willing to put in the work to try to increase that percentage? You might not succeed. We might not succeed as a team here, but do you want to try? Are you going to put the effort into trying? It might not work, but do you want to try? And for some, they will say, yes, I do want to try. I would like to get that percentage up to 50 or 100 eventually. And so let's do it. Okay, that's one place that people will be. But some people will say, geez, when you put it that way, no, I don't want to try. Or they'll say yes, and then after a couple months, I'll ask again, and they'll say like, yeah, initially I thought I wanted to try, but proof's in the pudding. Week to week in between sessions, I'm not actually putting any effort into it. Or the person will say, my partner isn't putting any effort into it. You gave us homework this whole time, and she hasn't. I've gone to her, and she's like, it's not a good time right now, and it's never a good time to her. So she says she wants to work on it, but I don't think she does. And so if she's not going to, then I'm not going to. So, I think that there's at some point, the two of them both decided that they were of low motivation to be together, and they didn't want to try to improve things. A part of them did kind of, enough to keep things going, kind of, but not enough. And and maybe Kody's a jerk face for not putting in more effort, because you could say that that's kind of in his camp. But I don't. In terms of the principles of fair relationships between two adults, it's not inherently his responsibility. It's it's both, and we're not there with the vibe. I'm saying all this because, not to defend Kody or her or anything. I say all this because, in all likelihood, you have been through a divorce or a breakup of some kind, or people in your life, or your parents, or you're thinking about it or something. And the way society operates, there's just this automatic assumption that someone's a jerk face. And sometimes someone is a jerk face. Or someone is more the jerk face than the other person or something. But at the core of it, at the foundation of it, is that magical, poetic motivation of being in love, or being in love enough to stay together or to try to work things out. And that is something that sometimes goes away even when you don't do anything to make it go away. Sometimes people just fall out of love. But we really want someone to blame. And it's really easy to blame the other person. I think it's really easy to blame Kody. And maybe he is, quote unquote, to blame. But I'm not hearing anything from Christine that says, you know, because even if we said, okay, well, Kody's to blame because he didn't put enough effort. Well, shouldn't people want to put effort? And in the beginning, and aren't people allowed to choose if they want to? In the beginning, I think Kody wanted to put an effort and did put an effort. And I think Christine wanted to put in, I think they all did. But over the years, you know, things just slowly go down a road, and they, because of circumstance, or they grow up, you know, that's the other thing. They were all young. I think particularly Christine, right? So unless I hear something different at this point, I would say that 90% of the cause of the breakup was just regular non-jerk face drifting apart. And it's sad, it hurts. And the thing is on this show, Kody could be hurting just as much as she is hurting, or might have hurt in the past just as much as she is hurting right now. But he does not show it because of traditional masculine socializing that I think he went through growing up and continues to go through in his circle. So I assume that he's hurting. And you see two people hurting, and that sucks to me. I don't know how you feel, but that's how I feel. That's what I'm getting right now.
I get things change. And I get hurt. Okay? But that doesn't mean deep down there's not something there that you want. And that you can fight for, and you.
Wow, Mary's doing the full court press. I don't know what to make of this. The top hypothesis is Mary just has not been along the ride that we have been regarding what has been going on with Christine for so long. And she's like, yeah, this will blow over. You know, last week you were totally in love and everything's good. So, you know, don't be hasty. So that's one possibility. Or this is her role, Mary's role. Or this is some sort of religious protocol, or Mary doesn't want to lose Christine. Or another, actually, this is, so I've talked about projective identification. Listen to my deep dives on that. But when we have internal conflicts between two aspects of ourselves, two ideas, two emotions or something, it's really hard for us to cope with because we have two parts of ourselves that are fighting with each other, and we initially will perceive it as one side has to lose, and no one likes to lose. So we need some way of defending ourselves against that internal psychodynamic. One defense mechanism to that internal strife and that pain and that ambiguity and that ambivalence and that confusion and that desperation is to externalize either both sides to the argument or one side. And so who knows, but it's possible that Mary internally for her for a long time has had a battle of two parts of herself, one of which is represented by Christine right now and one of which is represented by her right now. That there's a side of her that's like, no, you got to stick with it. And another side of her that's like, I want out. I have emotions, I have needs, okay? And for Mary, she doesn't know what to do with it, and she tends to identify with the side that's going to stay. That's the side that she notices consciously, but unconsciously there's another part of herself, but it's fighting all the time. And it's relieving to have it externalized because then you can embody one side and you can have that other side of yourself in another person. This is what projection is. This is what projective identification is. And so there's a possibility that what's coming out of her right now is really 99.99% of the time is what she's banging into herself and maybe even internalized from the outside to her. That she's actually often, desperately doing all these things to convince herself to stay in the marriage and to keep herself unemotional. But right now she has this opportunity to externalize it, and Christine's just like, what's happening?
I made a commitment I made a commitment to Kody. I made a commitment to the family. I made a commitment to Janelle and Christine and Robin. To me, that's what family is about. You didn't put 30 years into this, 25, 28, wherever you are, to walk away. I didn't put 30 years in to walk away.
I don't know what's going on in Christine's mind. I would guess that Christine is giving up trying to defend herself and is like, well, she really wants to try to convince me, but I'm not convincible. Or the look on Christine's face looks like she is being swayed by what Mary is saying. So maybe this is working. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. I appreciate everything Mary is saying. I do. She's
Either way, it's nice to see affection and connection and love between the two of them. I don't think I've ever seen that before between the two of them. I mean, there's been moments of togetherness, but not like this.
lived through a lot. But her relationship with Kody certainly isn't one that I would want. And the relationship that I have with Kody isn't what I would want to.
So this is a one-on-one interview that's happening much later in all likelihood. So at the very least, by this point, she is standing in that position of not wanting to be married anymore. Whether or not she divorces or just agrees to not necessarily live in the same area, or I don't know. I guess we'll find out. You probably know what already happens, right?
What I have here is not what I want right now.
So that's the end of that episode. I think that's the end of the season, right? Yeah, that's the end of season 15. So we'll start season 16 in the next episode. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.